Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in here. Um, I guess it's a video check-in, but not of me this time, just our course. So we've just finished up Unit 5. I'm just in our due dates here, where we looked at Alice Munro's short story Boys and Girls and sort of compared it to that song and video from No Doubt. So some pretty interesting parallels there, I think, as many people discovered. Anyway, we move then into Unit 6, and before getting into that, I did want to just sort of draw your attention to the fact that um, after Unit 6, we look at really what's a combined unit for us because of our condensed semester, the 8-week term. But it's our first essay, and so I'm not going to jump into those details, but just in case you were sort of like wondering when is that finally going to happen, we're getting very close to it. So we've sort of scaffolded a bunch of things up through and including Unit 6, where we'll talk about sources, and then we'll finally be bringing that all together in Unit 7/8 here for essay number 1. You'll notice too that we have a quick turnaround deadline for Unit 6, but then our first longer deadline, obviously, for that more involved writing project. So into Unit 6 then. Looking at secondary sources, I've mentioned before how absolutely crucial the research component of our course is, which means basic things like in-text citation, doing your work cited correctly, it has to happen, but also finding finding and using correct secondary sources. So for us, and this is repeated a number of places throughout the course, because our essays are about works of literature or short stories from our book, there's a particular kind of source that we want to use. First of all, we're always going to use databases. So again, you can see how Unit 6 here is just having us practice one of those smaller building blocks that we'll then use in the essay in terms of using the databases. I'll show you a couple that I think are going to be most maybe useful for us. But it's worth highlighting that for our essays, we don't use just Google or any kind of just general web sources. You have to, for our purposes, use the COD databases, which is again why, as many of you might be doing this from home, to access the databases, unless you're on the COD campus, you'll need an active library card, and I'll show you how that's going to look in just a second here. So not only are you using the databases then, all of the sources we find will be direct discussions of the literary text. So if you're writing a short story, or if you're writing an essay on, let's say, Alice Munro's Boys and Girls, your secondary source must be a discussion of that short story. It can't be a discussion of just like a general idea like child psychology or child development, is the example I use in Unit 6 here. So again, these aren't gray areas. It's either right or wrong when I look at it in your essay. And of course for the discussion board here. You've used the databases and you've found sources that are appropriate for what we're doing here. And again, incorrect sources or the wrong number, or you haven't used the databases, or you've found something in a database but it's just only kind of vaguely related to the topic that you're writing about, or the story that you're writing about, has a significantly negative impact on your grade, not because I personally think that it's so desperately important in life, but it is a fundamental and primary part of this course, English 1102, the research course, to make sure you're doing the research part of it correct. All right, so I'm just going to open up another browser here, or a window, and then find the library, and then you'll be able to find the databases link here. If I scroll down a little bit, I'll find literature in the humanities section. You'll notice that I'm still within the COD site, so I haven't needed my library card yet. And then we have a number of different databases here, but the ones I'm going to suggest as most promising to yield results are the Literature Resource Center and the one right below it, the McGill on Literature Plus. They're both set up a little bit differently. It's easiest to just kind of wade into them and figure out how the searching works. But I'm not on campus right now, and if you do this the same way I am, before you can get into that database, right, it's going to ask for your name and barcode, your library barcode, and it has to be an active card. So I'm not going to go through that right now. But these are your most likely bets, and again, you'll have to have that active library card to access the material. A very simple discussion board here, really discussion sort of overstates it. You're just finding a source, so you're practicing, right? In fact, the source you find here may be in a part of what you use for Essay 1 in our next unit, but it doesn't have to be. But you are using the databases. It's a discussion of the story directly, not just something vaguely related. And really, in your post, you're just kind of telling us the title of the source, where it came from, is there an author named, basic information that you'll see provided in any of the database material that you look at. A little summary of the article, what does it cover, that kind of stuff. And then I'm asking you to reply, even though there's really not much to reply to, but I do want you to get a sense of other articles and other databases that people have used successfully. And of course, you can sort of comment too on what everyone will hopefully do is, have they used the databases? Have they found a source that is, in fact, a direct discussion of a short story rather than just something kind of tangentially related? So you'll notice some other stuff about integrating sources effectively, but obviously our focus really is this discussion board. I'm also having you read a couple new short stories. We won't spend a lot of time, talking or discussing or looking at those within our course, but they may form a part of what you write about for essay number 1. So it's good to, of course, have that reading done as well. Okay, as always, be in touch with me if you have any questions or concerns, and I will check in with everybody in a couple days.